Hello. We want to welcome you to our show today, the Sunnyside Community Voice. And today we have a hot topic on today for us because for the first time, Harris County has a public defender. So our show today is on the Harris County Public Defender, and we have on our panel with us today, to my left here, we have Mr. Alex Bundin, who is the Harris County Public Defender. We want to thank you for being with us today. And joining us also today is Mr. Ben Mendez of the NHPO. And to my right, can't forget him, this is Pastor James Nash, who is president of the Sunnyside CDC, and he is also a member of the Defender Board. Today we want to let the community know what is the public defender. This is very new to Harris County, and Mr. Bunyan is going to let us know what the public defender is and how this is going to affect Harris County. So we're going to give way to Mr. Bunyan and let him introduce himself and tell us something about the public defender's office.
Thank you very much. And thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I enjoy it. It's probably a good idea to tell the viewers what a public defender is. And so that term is often used kind of generally, but a public defender is a lawyer who is a salaried lawyer who works for a government agency or a nonprofit and only represents persons charged with crimes. So a lot of times people confuse that. They'll call the office and ask for their public defender when what they're thinking of is a private lawyer who had been assigned by the court, and those are not public defenders. So the term is kind of used interchangeably, and people don't always realize that a public defender is part of an institution, and they have an allegiance to that institution, work with other lawyers. It's like a big law firm is what it is.
Okay. So this is new. This is new to Harris County, and I'm Joe Citizen. I don't know anything about the Public Defender's Office. So what we're going to do today is you're going to tell us a little bit of something about this. How are the appointments made? How was the appointments made before this office was created?
Before Harris County has only recently started this project. For many years, Harris County was really the only large city in the United States that didn't have a public defender of any kind. Wow. And what they did was what happens in many places in part is that private lawyers are chosen by the individual judges to represent criminal defendants. I started my practice here in Harris County, so I was used to that system when I started back in the early 80s. Each judge, we now have 22 felony judges. I think it was pretty close to that back then. We have 15 judges that hear A and B misdemeanors, and each one of them could choose the lawyers they wanted for their court. There was no set system to do that. And over time, there were advances. There's something called the Fair Defense Act, which said they had to systemize it, and they put lawyers on a wheel and chose from that, and they had to have qualifications. But when I started, they could just take anybody. And I remember going down there in the mornings, and you'd walk around from court to court, and you'd say, do you have any appointments? And you might get appointed. Some judges wouldn't appoint you unless you contributed to their campaigns. And, you know, I remember a case where I was appointed. I represented a defendant. We had a contested hearing on a motion to suppress. I lost. I appealed that judge. He was reversed in a published decision, and I never got another appointment in that court again, because it was too much on the judges. And it was a system in which we have elected judges, and they felt a pressure to appoint the people they felt most comfortable with.
Okay, and what will the difference be now? What is the difference now with a public defender here
Well,
now?
The main difference is our office has no allegiance to any particular judge, and we are funded separately. Okay. That we don't have to depend on those judges to pay us. We are the newest department in Harris County, so we are a Harris County department, and in bringing that into the county, our first year we're completely funded by a grant from the state of Texas. So the county is paying some into this. They're helping build out our space, but our salaries and all our infrastructure, that's coming from a state grant. So we don't look to the judges to pay us on individual cases. We decide what is best for our clients, and we deal with it from that point of view.
Pastor Nash, do you have a question for Mr. Bond?
Well, one of the things I want to thank him for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And one thing I do know that he has the credentials as well as the know-how, because this is not the first time he's been a public defender.
Correct.
In Harris County it is, but I think it's maybe 3 times.
Yes.
And the reason I wanted him on the show is to explain just what is a public defender's office, because people think that, just like you said, come in, just call on the phone and say, I need a public defender.
Right.
But I want you to spend time. I'm just on the show here as a co-host because I want to hear from you further on, letting the people know what is the office. What does it consist of?
Okay. Well, it's an office with lawyers and investigators and social workers and administrative staff, and what we do is we represent individuals charged with crimes. And what happens is the court will appoint us in those cases, but from there we're just like a private law firm. We take over. Now, in the beginning, we're going to have 2 divisions that are going to be representing folks. The Misdemeanor Mental Health Division, which takes cases of those persons charged with misdemeanors who've been identified as mentally ill or mentally retarded and need special help because the laws regarding them are special. So we have lawyers who are specially trained to represent those folks. We also have an appeals division right now. They represent people who have been convicted in either a felony court or a misdemeanor court and are appealing to a court of appeals or the highest court in Texas, the Court of Criminal Appeals. Later this year, we'll have a felony trial division. That's what most people think about when they think about public defenders, representing people charged with burglaries, robberies, murder, serious cases. And those lawyers will be representing them in the trial courts. And then later this year, we're going to have a juvenile division, and we'll represent minors that are charged with what we would consider to be crimes, but they're in the juvenile system.
Okay. What cases would not be cases for you, Mr. Bunyan?
Well, they have to be crimes, for one thing. A lot of people will call and they have all kinds of issues, and they'll say, well, I have a car accident, or I have a Social Security issue, and we're not legal aid. We don't take all kinds of civil cases. We don't represent people in divorces, criminal charges, and we need to be appointed by the court. So we don't decide who our clients are. The court appoints us.
Right.
Now, now that the office is here, we've not had one before. How has the office been received since you've been here?
Really, really well. Had a number of receptions for me, so that was very different. I had never had that before, and it was very welcoming. But all the county officials, law enforcement, the community. I've met with many community leaders like Reverend Nash, who's also on the board, but just many people across the whole community have come out and say, we're so glad you're here. We look forward to this office, and everyone says, how can we help? Which is good to hear.
Well, that is good to hear. That is good.
Matter of fact, I asked that question, and then I answered my own question. I said the best way we can help him is to stay out of his way.
Well, in the beginning, but I think we're going to have room for everybody to help. It's just at this point, there is no office. There is now, but there was no office.
Right.
I had to come in and borrow an office and a computer and a phone, and I had no employees. I had to start hiring employees. I now have 22 employees since December 6th. We have lawyers in court every day now, and we're beginning to be a functioning office. Go ahead.
That is so good. We were talking just before the show started, and I was telling him that his plate is probably very full with this being something new. Right. You having to start from the ground and work up. So your days are probably long hours getting this together. Mr. Mendez, we want to speak with you for a minute. There, you are with the National Hispanic Professional Organization. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about NHPO. We are a networking organization of Hispanic professionals. We're actually the largest Hispanic organization here in Houston. We have about 1,500 members. And I must say that I'm glad you're here, by the way.
Thank you.
We get tons of calls in our community. Unfortunately, we don't have one person that people can go to for assistance. We don't have the reverends, and we don't have the Quanell X's of the world that they can go to that are activists. So we get a lot of our calls from our community because they have nowhere else to go. And so especially the immigrant community.
Right.
And so let me ask you this, since we have you here. for those immigrants that are having a hard time with the legal system. I know you said you can't take a lot of those cases, but where do they go?
Well, if it's specifically an immigration issue, then there are organizations like Carescent and various other organizations dedicated to immigration consequences. However, people who are charged with crimes and they're non-citizens, they have immigration consequences that their criminal defense lawyer needs to look at, because it may be as simple as pleading guilty to a misdemeanor crime, and maybe that means no time in jail, but it could mean their deportation. And so our office is going to be very knowledgeable about what those consequences are and be able to advise people when we represent them in their criminal cases.
One of the things that also comes up quite a bit is that we have people that are afraid to come to the police because of their immigration status. They've been victims of crime, and that includes police officers. I mean, even though they have a badge, they commit crimes against our community as well, and that's a very big concern in our community.
Yes, I think that's a very valid concern, and you know, to the extent that people want to come and just call somebody and ask them what the law is, that's fine. We're available for that. The only thing we can't do is decide who our clients will be. I mean, the courts have to appoint us, but if someone were to call and say, I have a family member that's in trouble, could you give me some advice? I'm already doing that, so that would be okay.
Okay, now that you're here, you're up and you're running, how long do you expect this to last?
I expect it to be here as forever is a long time, but I expect it to stay in Harris County. Harris County Commissioners Court last session voted $2.8 million to build out our permanent space at the Criminal Justice Center. Oh, wow. So that's no small investment. And they're going to build out the entire 13th floor of the courthouse for us. It's expected to be finished late this summer so that we can move in and I can open the trial and the juvenile sections. But I think, you know, I met with the commissioners, I met with the county judge. I think there's full support for it. And what we're doing is we're only replacing part of a system that was already there. I mean, they were paying money for assigned lawyers. So we're replacing that part of the system. And as long as they think we're doing as good or better work, and I think they're going to find we're doing better work, and we'll be evaluated for those purposes, I think we're here to stay.
That's good. That's good. And I'm sure our listeners out there who did not know that you were even here, because like I was explaining to Pastor, a lot of people just in our area, in the Sunnyside area, had it not been for him coming to us and letting us know that there was a board, that the public defender is now here. They wouldn't have known about that. Right. And I think this is going to be such a great blessing to all the communities, ours, the Hispanic community, everybody,
sure.
that you're here and you're on board. Where's your office located?
Right now we're in temporary space at 1310 Prairie, Suite 980. And we're going to be there probably through the summer until they can finish our permanent space. But it's a good place to start. It's a county building, and we're fine. Everybody's set up. It's a little tight, but we know it's going to get better.
And how does a person get a public? But I think you've already explained it. You said that it's appointed by the court.
They have to be, the judge has to find they're indigent, which simply means there's a form, it shows their assets and you know, their debts, and it's based on what the person's wherewithal is, not their family, not you know, that they can go to other members. Yeah, and I think we'll be looking at that to make sure that that's fairly enforced, because I think in the past,
so good to hear.
You know, a long time ago when I first practice, there was at least one judge who told people they needed to come back next time with a lawyer, or they were going to trial no matter what. And so I think we're past that age, and
that's good to hear, because so many people are based on, well, can't your family members help you?
Right.
Can you get funds from here? Can you get funds from there? So it's an individual thing. It's based on an individual thing.
It is supposed to be, yes.
And that is just so good. And I think I heard you say the funding that you've got, it came from a grant.
Correct. The Texas Task Force on Indigent Defense, which is a state-funded agency, has amounts of money to give in discretionary grants through to different counties for different things, and they saw the need in Harris County for a public defender, so they really invested wisely and heavily in Harris County in this.
And it sounds like you're well staffed.
I think so.
You've got your office. You've got your office well staffed and ready to go. We're just so happy that you know that you're here, and we feel like this is going to make a difference. It's going to make a difference.
I believe
and
so.
I'm glad we're on the same road with everybody else now. Pastor, do you have it?
Yeah, I want to thank.